Dillon Brooks, the Phoenix Suns forward, was arrested for DUI in Scottsdale, Arizona early Friday morning. Exclusive body cam footage from the incident has surfaced, giving fans a first-hand look at the arrest. TMZ first reported the story, the mugshot quickly went viral, and the internet has been buzzing about it ever since. Here's a breakdown of what happened with Dillon Brooks and how the situation unfolded. Phoenix Suns player Dillon Brooks was arrested for DUI Friday morning. Authorities say the small forward was pulled over in Scottsdale around 1 a.m. for traffic violations. This was March 6, 2026, the middle of the night. The rest of the city was asleep. Brooks was not. According to Scottsdale police, officers stopped Brooks for traffic violations on Scottsdale Road, just south of Thunderbird Road at approximately 1 a.m. That intersection, Thunderbird and Scottsdale Roads, is in North Scottsdale, not far from where a lot of the Phoenix area NBA players live and frequent. After an investigation, Brooks was placed under arrest for suspicion of driving under the influence. Now, the timeline here is worth paying attention to. He was taken into custody at 1:33 a.m., transported to Scottsdale City Jail, and released around 3:30 a.m. So from the moment he was pulled over to the moment he walked out of jail, we are talking about roughly 2.5 hours. That is not a long window. That tells you this was processed, and it was processed quickly. TMZ first broke the story that Brooks had been arrested, and the news spread fast. We're told he was respectful and cooperative throughout the incident. That detail keeps coming up in every report, every outlet, every source. Respectful and cooperative, that's what authorities said. That's what was relayed to TMZ, and then echoed across every publication that picked up the story. TMZ obtained Brooks' mugshot, showing the hooper staring into the camera, with a white tank top and lengthy beard. And that mugshot is what really got the internet going. His mugshot from the arrest was shared on social media and is going viral on X. People started posting it everywhere, quote tweets, memes, reactions, the full cycle. Within hours, Dillon Brooks' mugshot was everywhere, and the conversation was no longer just about the arrest. It was about Dillon Brooks as a person, as a character in the NBA, and what this means for his season. Now, one thing that's important to note, possible charges will be determined by prosecutors. At the time of his release, this was listed as suspicion of DUI. The Scottsdale City Prosecutor's Office will ultimately decide what formal charges, if any, get filed. The City Prosecutor's Office will determine charges. That's a distinction a lot of people gloss over when they see headlines, but it matters. Being arrested on suspicion is not the same as being convicted. The timing of all of this is significant too. Hours after the Phoenix Suns lost to the Chicago Bulls in embarrassing fashion, injured player Dillon Brooks was arrested for a DUI on Friday, March 6, 2026. The Suns played at home that Thursday night. Phoenix is 35-27 after falling to the Chicago Bulls 105-103 on Thursday, a 2-point loss to a Bulls team that at the time was still under 500 with a record of 26-37, making the loss even worse for Phoenix. Brooks was in the arena for that game. Brooks watched from the bench in street clothes on Thursday as Phoenix fell to the Chicago Bulls 105-103, sidelined by a fractured left hand sustained February 21st against the Orlando Magic. He was there. He watched it happen. He sat on the bench in street clothes with a cast on his hand and watched his team lose a game they should have won. And then, a few hours later, he was being pulled over in Scottsdale. The Suns responded with a statement that was brief and measured. The Suns acknowledged the incident in a statement. "We are aware of the situation involving Dillon Brooks and are gathering more information," said Stacey Mitch, the team's senior vice president of communications. "We have no further comment at this time." That was it. That was the full statement. No condemnation, no defense, no added context. Just gathering information. That's the corporate approach. That's what franchises do when they don't have all the facts yet and don't want to say anything that could age poorly. And Brooks himself? Brooks has yet to comment on the situation publicly. Silence from his end. No Instagram story. No tweet. No statement through a representative. Just nothing. To understand why this story hit the way it did, you have to understand what Dillon Brooks was doing before all of this. This was not some fringe player getting arrested in the offseason. This was one of the most important players on a team that was in the middle of a playoff race, and he was having the best season of his career. Before the injury, Brooks was having the best season of his NBA career, averaging a career-high 20.9 points per game. Let that sit for a second. Career high. He is averaging 20.9 points per game, an increase in scoring by 6.9 points from last season, in addition to 3.7 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and 1 steal. A jump of nearly 7 points per game from the previous year. That's not a marginal improvement. That's a leap. That's a different player. Brooks, 30, is in his first season with the Suns, after being involved in the 7-team trade that resulted in Kevin Durant being dealt to Houston. That's how he ended up in Phoenix. He came to the Suns as part of the trade that sent 15-time All-Star Kevin Durant to the Rockets during the offseason. When that trade happened in the summer of 2025, the reaction was mixed. Some people thought Phoenix was downgrading. Some people thought the Suns were making a smart, long-term play by moving on from the Durant-Beal experiment that had largely failed. And then Brooks showed up and started playing at a level nobody expected. Brooks has become a tone setter for the Suns since arriving in the desert. As part of a trade involving Kevin Durant, he has emerged as one of the team's most important pieces and has helped Phoenix exceed many preseason expectations. Nobody predicted this. Nobody picked the Suns to be a real threat in the Western Conference without Kevin Durant, and yet there they were, largely because of what Brooks was doing on both ends of the floor. Brooks is in the midst of a career year with the Suns, averaging 20.9 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 1.8 assists per game on 44-0, 34-3, 85.6 shooting splits. His stellar play has been a big reason why the Suns have surprised the league and been a legitimate playoff contender in the West this year after moving on from the failed Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal experiment. In 50 games this season, Brooks is averaging 20.9 points. 50 games of that production. 50 games of a guy who was supposed to be a secondary piece, suddenly becoming the engine. And then the injury happened. The forward has been out of the Suns lineup since he fractured his hand in a Feb 21 game against the Orlando Magic, February 21st. A win against Orlando, but a win that cost them their best player. He last played against the Orlando Magic on February 21st, scoring 5 points and recording 3 rebounds in just 7 minutes. 7 minutes. That's all he lasted before the hand broke. Reports indicated that the team expected him to return in 4 to 6 weeks. So the Suns were looking at late March, maybe early April, before they could get Brooks back. He's expected to be out until at least late March after having surgery. That's already a blow to a team trying to secure a playoff spot in a loaded Western Conference. The Suns are currently in the midst of a tightly contested playoff race in the Western Conference, and Brooks' injury has already tested the team's depth. And now, on top of the injury, there is an arrest. On top of the fractured hand, there is a DUI charge. The timeline for his return was already uncertain, and now there's a legal layer on top of it. If Brooks were to plead guilty to the DUI charge, it would likely bring a suspension from the league. In 2023, Devontae Graham pleaded guilty to DWI while playing for the San Antonio Spurs and was given a 2-game suspension. A potential suspension would add 2 games onto Brooks' injury absence, as he wouldn't serve that suspension until he was cleared to play. So even if the legal consequences are minimal, the basketball consequences could extend beyond the hand injury. That suspension, whenever it's served, gets tacked on. However, for a Phoenix team already sputtering a bit in his absence, Brooks' arrest and the potential for a suspension adds to a rough past few weeks. For a team that has seen a promising season turn south, if you follow the NBA at all, you know the name Dillon Brooks. And you know it, not because of his scoring averages or his shooting splits. You know it because of who he is on the court, the way he plays, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. Dillon the Villain is a nickname for Dillon Brooks. That's not a nickname fans made up as an insult. That's his actual acknowledged nickname on Basketball Reference. Dillon Brooks, born January 22, 1996, is a Canadian professional basketball player for the Phoenix Suns of the National Basketball Association. He played college basketball for the Oregon Ducks, where he was named a consensus second-team All-American, and earned Conference Player of the Year honors in the Pac-12 in 2017. Brooks was selected in the second round of the 2017 NBA Draft. He began his career with the Memphis Grizzlies, earning NBA All-Defensive Second-Team honors in 2023. His journey into the league is worth noting because it informs everything about how he plays. He was rotund as a teenager before he transformed his body. He wasn't highly recruited before playing for Oregon for 2 seasons, and he fell to number 45 in the draft, where he was selected by Memphis in 2017, a second-round pick, a guy most teams passed on twice, and yet he clawed his way into a starting role, into a multi-year extension, and into a reputation that precedes him wherever he goes. Brooks has developed a controversial reputation for his trash talk and physical play, though others consider him a culture setter. That's the split on Dillon Brooks. It depends on who you ask. If you're his teammate, he's the guy who sets the tone, who brings the energy, who makes everybody around him tougher. If you're his opponent or an opposing fan, he's the guy who goes too far, who crosses lines, who doesn't know when to stop. The feud with LeBron James is the most visible example of this. The Dillon Brooks feud unfolded during the first round of the 2023 playoffs, when Brooks, then with the Memphis Grizzlies, made the decision to publicly antagonize one of the most accomplished players in NBA history. That series is where Dillon Brooks became a household name outside of Memphis. After Game 2 of that series, Brooks said he doesn't respect LeBron and called him old. He said he pokes bears, and the internet lost its mind. Brooks briefly enjoyed a moment of defiance in that game, hitting late three-pointers and staring James down, but the rivalry took a darker turn soon after. In Game 3, Brooks was ejected early in the second half for a flagrant 2 foul after striking James below the belt while he brought the ball up the court. That's the play everyone remembers. The hit on LeBron, the ejection, the fallout. The fallout from those remarks may have been precipitous for both Brooks and the Grizzlies. After making those comments, Brooks struggled on the court and was booed constantly, criticized in the press, and mocked on social media. And eventually, the second-seeded Grizzlies were upset by the seventh-seeded Lakers. Brooks was ejected from Game 3 after receiving a flagrant foul for hitting James in the groin, and skipped his media obligations after losses in Games 4 and 6, incurring a $25,000 fine from the NBA for doing so. Memphis opted not to re-sign Brooks this summer. That sequence, the trash talk, the ejection, the series loss, the departure from Memphis, is the Dillon Brooks origin story as a villain, and it didn't end there. The incidents kept piling up throughout his career. On February 2, 2023, he punched Donovan Mitchell in the groin, which caused a brawl. He was then ejected from the game. He was suspended for a game afterwards. During a game against the Miami Heat on March 17th, Brooks pushed a cameraman to the ground and was fined $35,000 by the NBA. Even after arriving in Phoenix, the LeBron drama followed him. Brooks was ejected Sunday in the team's loss to the Lakers when he bumped into LeBron James after hitting a clutch shot. The Phoenix Suns forward said Wednesday that he was out of character a little bit, out of my body a little bit in his team's loss to the Los Angeles Lakers on Sunday. The Suns rallied from a 20-point deficit late in that contest, and Brooks drilled a three-pointer to put the Suns in the lead with about 10 seconds left, and then got ejected for confronting LeBron afterwards. When asked about the villain label, Brooks has never denied it. He's leaned into it. When asked if he wanted the villain role, Brooks said it was more of a byproduct of his approach as opposed to something he sought. It was given to me, Brooks said, but I embraced it. It strikes fear into people. The DUI arrest did not happen in a vacuum. It's one more entry in a stretch of off-court events that have followed Dillon Brooks around for years. And the most notable of those events involves his ex-girlfriend, Heather Andrews, and a legal battle that got attention long before any arrest in Scottsdale. The DUI arrest arrives roughly 8 months after Brooks filed a restraining order against Heather Andrews. That filing happened in June 2025. Dillon Brooks' split with the mother of his children has gotten even nastier. TMZ Sports has learned the NBA star is now asking for a restraining order against his ex. Brooks and Andrews share 2 daughters, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. This is not some distant ex from years ago. This is the mother of his 2 children, and the legal filings between the 2 of them paint a picture that goes well beyond a normal breakup. Brooks reportedly said that he met Andrews during a visit to a Las Vegas nightclub in 2018, and that they began a relationship not long after. The relationship started, according to Brooks, with things moving fast. Brooks says Andrews became pregnant with their first child just a few months into the relationship, and from that point forward, the situation quickly escalated. In his restraining order filing, Brooks alleged that Andrews engaged in a pattern of threats, harassment, and property destruction. In the filing, Brooks alleged that Andrews made violent threats against him, damaged his property, and hacked into his various social media accounts throughout their relationship. The specific allegations in the filing are striking. Brooks claimed Andrews sent messages threatening to harm him physically. Among her violent threats, he claimed, she said she would cut off his fingers. That's a threat aimed at his livelihood. His career depends on his hands. That's not a generic threat. That's targeted. While Brooks was with the Memphis Grizzlies in 2022, Andrews also allegedly vandalized his house, writing "You suck BC" among other things, on his fireplace mantle. This allegedly happened while Brooks was playing in Memphis. Property damage. Written messages on his home. And this goes both directions. Brooks' filing comes less than a year after Andrews obtained her own temporary restraining order against the 29-year-old, alleging he had harassed and threatened her. So Andrews had a restraining order against Brooks first. Then Brooks filed one against Andrews, both sides accusing the other of harassment and threats. Brooks even included screenshots of disturbing messages in his filing. The filing also got into allegations about Andrews hacking into his co-parenting app. Dillon Brooks further alleged that she gained unauthorized access to their co-parenting app, Our Family Wizard, and sent a false message to herself, allegedly orchestrating it to look like it came from Brooks. That is a detailed allegation. The claim is that Andrews fabricated a message from Brooks by accessing his account and sending it to herself, then used that fabricated message as the basis for her own restraining order against him. Dillon Brooks alleged that she sent more than 100 texts a day, as well as used burner phone numbers to get hold of his attention. That's the scope of what Brooks claimed in his filing, over 100 messages a day, burner phones, unauthorized access to digital accounts. Now, it's important to say, these are allegations in a court filing. Andrews has her own side. She filed her own restraining order against Brooks before he filed his, both parties accusing the other of unacceptable behavior. The courts were set to sort it out. Dillon Brooks is petitioning the court to grant him a non-contact and stay-away order that would prevent Andrews from getting within 100 yards of him, his house, his work, and his car. A temporary restraining order was already in place, granted in November 2024, and is expected to expire at the end of next month. The arrest is the latest development in what has been a turbulent period for Brooks away from the court. You add it all up, the restraining orders, the allegations of threats, the property destruction claims, the custody dispute, and now a DUI arrest. And you have a situation where the off-court noise is starting to rival, and in some cases overpower, what's happening on the court. Gilbert Arenas called the Suns player out, saying that his great season in Phoenix is being wasted because no one knows him outside of his beef with the Lakers star. That was a comment about the LeBron feud specifically, but it applies more broadly. Dillon Brooks, the basketball player, is having a career year. Dillon Brooks, the person in the public eye, can't stay out of the headlines for the wrong reasons. So, where does this all go from here? That's the question everyone is asking. And the truth is, nobody has a definitive answer yet. Let's start with the legal side. DUI cases can result in suspensions, but the NBA typically doesn't make a ruling until after the case concludes. So, the league is not going to act right away. They'll wait. They'll let the legal process play out. The Scottsdale City Prosecutor's Office will decide whether to file formal charges. If charges are filed, Brooks will have to go through the court system, and only after there is a resolution, whether that's a plea deal, a conviction, or a dismissal, will the NBA step in and decide on any disciplinary action. We already have a recent precedent for how this goes. In 2023, Devontae Graham was given a 2-game suspension after pleading guilty to DWI. If Brooks were to plead guilty to the DUI charge, it would likely bring a suspension from the league. In 2023, Devontae Graham pleaded guilty to DWI while playing for the San Antonio Spurs and was given a 2-game suspension. 2 games. That's the baseline. If Brooks gets a similar outcome, it's not catastrophic in terms of games missed, but a potential suspension would add 2 games onto Brooks's injury absence, as he wouldn't serve that suspension until he was cleared to play. So those 2 games wouldn't happen until he's back from the hand injury, which means his return gets pushed back even further. Then there's the injury itself. Brooks, 30, has missed Phoenix's past 5 games with a fractured left hand, suffered in a Feb 21 win over the Orlando Magic, but he is expected to return near the end of the regular season. Near the end of the regular season. That's the target, late March, early April. If the Suns can hold on without him, they get him back for the stretch run and potentially the playoffs. But the margin for error is thin. The Suns are 35-27 and in 7th place in the Western Conference standings, with 20 more games left to play. 7th place. That's a play-in spot. That's not comfortable. They need wins, and they need Brooks back to get those wins. His absence has already been felt. His absence, due to the fractured hand, has removed one of the team's most disruptive defensive options. At an inopportune point in the season, the Suns aren't just missing his scoring. They're missing his defense, his energy, his edge. Currently in his first season with Phoenix, Brooks has been enjoying one of the most productive stretches of his career. When healthy, the 9-year NBA veteran is averaging a career-high 20.9 points, along with 3.7 rebounds per game while continuing to play the physical, hard-nosed defense that has defined his reputation around the league. And now you have the question of how the locker room handles this. Devin Booker explained the dynamics of his relationship in a conversation with The Athletic on Monday. The Suns star guard revealed that he and Brooks hang out outside work. Booker and Brooks have a relationship beyond the basketball court. They spend time together away from the facility. That matters because it tells you that Brooks isn't isolated in this locker room. He's connected. He has teammates who are invested in him. But the question becomes, does this arrest affect how the organization views him going forward? Does it affect contract discussions? Does it affect the coaching staff's willingness to build around him? The convergence of an off-court legal matter and an ongoing injury recovery creates a compact set of operational and reputational questions for the franchise to manage in the weeks ahead. He has earned approximately $105 million in NBA salary over his career, playing previously for the Memphis Grizzlies and Houston Rockets before signing with Phoenix in 2025. $105 million. That's what Dillon Brooks has earned in this league. That's the contract money. That's the value that teams have placed on him over the course of 9 NBA seasons. And at 30 years old, he is not at the end of his career. He could have several more productive years ahead of him, but the pattern of off-court incidents creates a cloud that follows him. There is no public statement from Brooks. There is no word from his agent or his representation. There is nothing from the NBA. The Suns have said they are gathering information and have no further comment. Everything is in a holding pattern. What we know is this: Phoenix Suns player Dillon Brooks was arrested for DUI Friday morning. He was respectful and cooperative throughout the incident. He was released within a few hours. His mugshot went viral, and the internet had a field day. What we don't know is what happens when the legal system catches up, when the NBA decides whether to act, and when the Suns have to figure out how to address all of this while trying to make the playoffs. The hand injury was already a setback. This arrest adds a layer of uncertainty that nobody in that franchise wanted. Dillon Brooks has made a career out of being the villain. He has embraced that role on the court. He's thrived in it. He's built his reputation on getting under people's skin, playing with a chip on his shoulder, and refusing to back down from anyone, including LeBron James. But the villain role works when it stays on the court, when it bleeds into the off-court, when it becomes arrests and restraining orders, and mugshots going viral on social media. It stops being a competitive advantage and starts becoming a liability. The Suns need Dillon Brooks to come back healthy, to stay focused, and to help them make a playoff run. Whether he can do that with all of this hanging over him is the question. And right now, nobody has the answer. That is the story of Dillon Brooks' arrest, and why the footage and that mugshot have taken over the internet. It's not just a DUI. It's the latest chapter in the saga of one of the NBA's most polarizing figures. A guy having the best season of his career on the court, while everything around him off the court seems to be spinning in the wrong direction.